We're not here to talk about some king who conquered the world. No, this is about a man who tried to conquer himself. And lucky for us, in his private notes, he left behind a guide on exactly how to do it.
So I want you to picture this. The year is 80 AD. We're on the banks of the Danube River, and there's this lone war tent, just glowing against the darkness. Outside, you can hear it all. The sounds of a brutal, unending war. The screams, the clash of steel. But inside that tent, it's quiet. There's just the light from a single candle, and a man writing. This guy is the absolute ruler of the known world, the Emperor of Rome. But the real army he's trying to command tonight, it's not outside. It's the chaos raging inside his own mind.
To really get who this guy was, we have to look past the emperor's crown and see the philosopher who, believe it or not, never even wanted it in the first place.
From a really young age, Marcus Aurelius was different. I mean, while Rome was all about excess and parties and just grandeur, he valued simplicity. When his tutors tried to get him to sleep on a soft bed with fancy sheets, he actually chose to sleep on a simple mat on the floor. He wanted discipline over comfort. He was a quiet kid with a really rich inner world.
He never, ever wanted the throne. His dream was a life of studying, of philosophy, of trying to understand the world. But duty called, and fate just dropped the weight of the entire Roman Empire right onto his shoulders.
And that weight, wow, it was immense. Think about it. Beyond the constant wars, the political backstabbing, and the plagues that were just wiping out his empire, he suffered a kind of pain that most of us can't even begin to imagine. He was a father who had to bury 8 of his own 13 children. Just let that sink in.
So for Marcus, being emperor wasn't some prize to be enjoyed. It was this profound, absolutely crushing responsibility. And to survive it, he knew he needed a different kind of strength, not of muscle, but of the mind.
He found that strength in an ancient philosophy called Stoicism. But for him, this wasn't some dusty academic theory. Oh no. It was a practical set of tools, a mental suit of armor that he built piece by piece just to survive the battlefield of his own life.
The first and maybe the most important piece of that armor was this incredible idea, the area of control. He realized that most of what happens in the world is completely outside of our power, and wasting energy fighting it, well, that's just a recipe for misery. The concept sounds so simple, right? You can't control what other people do. You can't go back and change the past. You definitely can't stop the rain. But, and this is the game changer, you can control how you think about those things. You can control your reactions. And that, he realized, is where your true power is. The next piece of his armor was something called amor fati, which literally means a love of fate. Now, this idea is pretty radical. It's about seeing every single obstacle, a plague, a war, even a betrayal, not as a curse, but as a form of training, a chance to practice courage or patience or wisdom. Today, we'd probably call it personal development. He just called it life. And the final piece of this mental armor, memento mori. Remember, you will die. Now, this doesn't sound very cheerful, I know. But it wasn't supposed to be morbid. For Marcus, it was a tool for focus. This constant awareness that his time was limited forced him to cut through all the noise, ignore the trivial stuff, and just act on what truly, deeply mattered. But theories are one thing. A real crisis is something else entirely. And his philosophy was about to face its ultimate test, a betrayal so deep it would have shattered any other person. This attack didn't come from some barbarian horde at the gates. No, it came from within his own circle, from his most celebrated general, his most trusted friend, a man he had praised and loved like a brother, Avidius Cassius. So here's what happened. A false rumor starts spreading like wildfire through the eastern provinces. The emperor is dead. Cassius, the hero general, seizes his chance and declares himself the new emperor. The betrayal is absolute. Back in Rome, the Senate is furious. They demand one thing, the head of the traitor and his entire family. They want blood. They want brutal revenge. In that moment, with all that pressure, with the entire empire watching his next move, what does Marcus Aurelius do? He consults his philosophy. He doesn't raise an army for vengeance. Instead, he writes a note to himself. And his response isn't rage, it's restraint. It isn't hatred, it's wisdom. And that right there was the core of his entire life. Look, many rulers can defeat an army on a battlefield. That's happened 1,000 times. But very, very few can defeat the enemy within.
their own ego, their pride, their blinding rage. That was his true victory.
Those private notes he wrote in his tent, well, they were never meant for us. They were just reminders to himself. Yet today, those notes, which we call meditations, have become this timeless guide to living a better life.
So why? Why are Silicon Valley CEOs, top athletes, and world leaders still turning to the diary of a 2,000-year-old emperor? It's because the problems he faced, they're the same problems we face. How do you deal with stress? How do you find calm in a totally chaotic world? How do you live a good life when it's just so hard sometimes?
The technology is completely different. Sure, the clothes are different, empires have risen and fallen, but the fundamental operating system of the human mind, our fears, our anxieties, our hopes, our desires, that has remained exactly the same.
In the end, Marcus Aurelius died. His empire eventually crumbled to dust. But his ideas? They still stand. Because he wasn't just writing for an emperor, he was writing for the human beings struggling inside the armor. Which really just leaves one final question for you. Are you ready to quiet the noise of the outside world and speak with the emperor within?